We're so lucky on the breakdown today to be joined by the head coach of the All Blacks, Ian Foster, joins us now live. Ian, thank you so much for your time. Let's start off and talk about Roger Toivasa. Did you speak to him and have a conversation before he re-signed with the Warriors? And what are his chances of going to the World Cup later this year?
Yeah, thanks, Kirsty. Evening all. Yeah, he did. Look, he's a quality person, so he did everything right the way he went about it. So there's nothing untoward in that regard. I fully understand his decision. You know, I think he's done it for a long term. He feels he can add a lot of value into the Warriors, but also, you know, it probably leaves him a market to go into when he's finished playing. That, you know, he's got a big influence with a lot of younger players in that industry. So, you know, I wish him well. In the meantime, he's eligible for the All Blacks. You know, we have complexities of contracts now with people leaving, and you know, quite frankly, the policy has always been if they're available this year, they're available, and we've made that clear to Rog. And I know he wants to give everything he can to try to make it. You know, he's certainly improving. You know, I'm disappointed he's leaving, but because I've seen the growth in him. I thought the start of Super Rugby, he really took another step up, and I was looking forward to seeing that continue, but that injury stopped it. But I'm sure he'll give us everything for the next few months.
Fozzie, one thing you won't be disappointed in is the competition around the 10s. So I want to talk that a little bit. You've got world-class 10s that anyone across the globe would want to pick. I look at sort of, you know, the Irish and also the French. They're very set on who their 10 is. Are you in a position where you could soundly say that, you know, you've got that sort of 10, that playmaker? And if you have, is he fair-headed or black?
Well, you know, one of the... you can't talk like that anymore, Mills. You can't say that. But it's, the reality is that you know, we're pleased. But if you go back a few years ago, even 2 years ago, we probably were a bit concerned who was behind Bodie and Richie. And I think we've now seen the emergence of Stephen Perafita coming through and Damian's come back and, you know, took a little while to find his feet at the end of last year. But, wow, I think he's been really impressive in Super Rugby, so delighted for him. Look, we're reasonably settled, but it's as you know, we don't need to play our hand right now, but we've got a clear idea, and we've just got players working now on facets of the game because we need to build depth going into a World Cup. It's a tough competition, and we've all seen the impact of injuries on tournaments. So for us now, it's just a matter of making sure we get as many options as we can. We're getting quite greedy.
I just wanted to dig a bit deeper on that, Fozzie. You know, you said in an article this morning you like what you see in Damian, but what are you actually seeing that's different to the others?
Well, it's not so much that it's different to the others, but it's probably where Damian has come from. I think his challenge at 10 has been his depth management, and it's been able to know when to play flat, when to play deep, because he instinctively likes to take the ball to the line. He's now got that sorted, I reckon. I think he's doing a good job in that space. He's now controlling the game with territory. I think the Chiefs are playing a really good territory game and kicking game and picking their times of when to move the ball, whereas maybe historically Damian was a little bit more inclined to on the high risk, high reward type strategy. So I think that's the part, I think, JK, that's impressing us the most. He's still got a bit of work. Ironically, his goal kicking is probably not quite as effective as what it's been in the past. So there's a few things he's got to keep working on. But, you know, he's a big mover. We're excited for him.
Fozzie, over the next couple of months, players have got an opportunity now to impress you as they maybe force their way into an All Black squad. I want to talk specifically about the wing position. You've said across the board players need to improve and play better. What about that specific position? You've lost to Sevu Reece. There's a lot of competition there. What is it that you want to see in the next 2.5 months in that position specifically?
Oh, look, I think you got your normal stuff. You know, the attacking side of the wing plays are given, and we often see a lot of that in Super Rugby. But it's the other side of the game. Probably it's probably the high ball stuff where it's the defensive reads. You've got a lot of teams are now playing their wings defending really, really high, and they have to make a lot of judgment calls about do they carry on going and expose that wide channel? And so how they read that sort of situation is critical. And I think You know, like I think, for example, Caleb, Mark, who I thought were really making great progress into last year, probably started Super Rugby a little bit slow in that regard defensively, but now have really worked hard on that. But it's really that defensive accuracy and that outside channel that's, probably elevated in our thinking.
Fozzie, I know you've been locked in a room with all the other staff and doing your planning for this year, but there's only 5 test matches left. I mean, what are you looking to achieve out of those 5 test matches?
Yeah, look, we just got to get our game going again from where we picked up at the end of last year and really look at instigating a few things that I guess we've learned from looking at Six Nations this year. We've got to make sure that, you need to go into a World Cup with some big rocks all locked and loaded. And I'm talking about things like your line-out defence, which was an Achilles heel for us, for a few years, and big teams were scoring tries too easily against us. We've got to make sure we really pick up where we left 2022 in that regard. We've got to make sure that, one of our weaknesses last year, ironically, was when we were 15 points up. There's 4 or 5 games that we got ourselves into great positions, and then when the pressure came back on us or someone scored, it was almost like we wanted to win so much, to get everything right that we lost our way for little spells of game. So that's a big period of the game we've got to get right. So we've been working hard on that, how to adapt and adjust and deal with the moment. So that's a couple of big things for us.
Jeepers, Fozzie, it sounds like that laptop's been getting a hiding at the moment, mate. You're giving it a thrashing. But are you anxious or sort of excited? Would you have liked another sort of camp to address those things, prior to the semi-finals?
Oh, look, we always want more, don't we? In an ideal world, it would have been nice. I think you've seen the Wallabies have a camp this week and get a group together. But, we're okay. It's not something that probably goes down that well in this country when we have one during Super Rugby. So we've made some adjustments there. We've got 3 leaders' days. We've already had 2. We've got 1 more. But, we're pretty confident going into that test series. I think, one thing, coming back to your question a bit, JK asked about the 5 tests. I think that in 2019, we didn't play anyone in the Super Rugby final didn't hop on the plane to Argentina at the end of the next week. And we gave them a break, which really meant that I think we thought we sacrificed a few combinations in those first 2 tests of the year. We don't intend to do that this year. And, we want to make sure that at the end of Super Rugby that people are fresh. They, we're on the play to Argentina on that Friday or Saturday after that, so we need to go. So, but look, I'm excited. I think the next half of Super Rugby is going to be good. I think the Wallabies camp and some of the messaging there is going to guarantee that I think they're going to man up a little bit more in the second half of Super Rugby. Hopefully we see some really good arm wrestle tussles between New Zealand and Australian teams and just keep exposing us to some different styles.
A couple of things I want to quickly ask on is clearly that game, that last test in Twickenham against the Springboks is going to be an important hit out, but there's so much chat about the first game of the Rugby World Cup, but that's not where a Rugby World Cup is won and lost, right? So much of that game in France and Paris, I've got you thinking about already. You're always choking on something, but if you're planning for the World Cup itself, and it's a long tournament this year, how's that coming together? Do you like, I suppose, the work that's being done behind the scenes?
Yeah, look, the planning's going really good. We're really excited about what's facing us. And yes, it is a long tournament. We've got the hit out against, the test in Twickenham against South Africa. Then we've got a week, where we're going to, I think, to Germany to train at the Adidas campus, which will be pretty cool, before we go to Lyon. But, I think what I love about this World Cup, a little bit like 2019 in some ways, but it's game one's huge. 2019 was South Africa. This one's France. I think one of the differences for us, and we're going to feel this in 2023, is that we're going to the host country is probably the favourite to win it. And so we're going to be surrounded by fans and the whole country is going to be so much in behind the French, whereas you go to Japan, it was a slightly different setup. So, we're going to feel the World Cup as soon as we hop off the plane. And I'm really confident with the planning. I think you just got to take a game at a time. That's what we've learned at World Cups. We can go through some pool plays, but I look at Italy and there's no way you can just coast through that game. They nearly bowled a few teams in Six Nations. So, it's the challenge is there, but wow, this is just what we need. And we believe we've been working in some really positive directions on large parts of our game last year, and now's the time to put it all together.
Fozzie, combinations, little bunts, little Horan, Nonu Smith. I mean, am I just old school thinking that combinations are important to the midfield, or are you a little bit worried that, Anton Leonard-Brown's been a little bit injured, Havili's injured? I mean, is that just a thing of the past? You just got to have guys that can interact whenever they're needed?
Yeah, look, I think we've probably had it's been an area, JK, that we've had a lot of, I guess, injuries over the last 2 years that sort of stopped that regular content. We've played around with when we introduce the Geordie into the midfield, and that's taken a bit of time because there's been some injuries in the back three, which have kept Geordie in the back three for us. So, but all those things have happened, I think, have put us in a great position. Like I was really confident with the combinations we had last year. I thought David Havili was strong when he came in, and I guess he faded away a little bit at the end, but he's a quality footballer, and he'll be better for some experience. You got Geordie, who's he played some big tests in the midfield and showed how physical he can be and what he can contribute. So, and it's great to see him continue that at super level. I still think he's a couple of steps off at super level, but I think he has a slightly different role probably in the Canes than what we have. So that's okay. Good experience for him. But I'm confident, JK. I think we've got the players in there. And I can't do much about Anton. And, all I know is that he's such a professional player. He's so determined, and I know when he gets his chance to come back, hopefully it's only a week or two away, that he'll show his qualities well.
And the Rugby World Cup isn't the only major event this year, arguably bigger, the FIFA Women's World Cup that'll be in Australia and New Zealand. It'll be talked about in your household with your incredibly talented daughter who is hoping to make it for New Zealand. It must be a really exciting time in your household.
Oh, it's bitterly disappointing. She's taken the whole gloss off my year, isn't she? But they haven't named that squad yet. Michaela's really realistic, and she's got an 8-week training camp coming up in Auckland, so there's a lot of work for her to do. But certainly a big goal for her.
Well, we're hoping, we've got our fingers and toes crossed for her as well, and she is a seriously ridiculous footballer. It's amazing. Just before we let you go, Humour Mills for a moment, take your All Blacks hat off. Does anyone beat the Chiefs this year?
Oh, very hard to see them go through unbeaten, I reckon. That would be a huge, huge effort to do that. And like I said, I think we're going to see a little bit of a bit more steel in the Aussies, and I'd say there's a couple of Kiwi teams that have been pretty hurt by what the Chiefs have done. So might be quite an interesting one this weekend, eh?
It's going to be a huge game this weekend. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having you on the program, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.
Thanks a lot, team.
Thank you so much.